Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Emerging Professional webinar. We're excited to have you. We're excited to be joined by Aldoa, who is a new affiliate member, our most recent. So this is a wonderful opportunity. They wanted to get right in front of our CalGeo members, which is exciting. So they are a young firm. We are with the co-founder and CEO today. CalGeo does not have other affiliates working within the project finances, managing finances, etc. space. So this is a good opportunity for you to get exposure to something a little bit different. They're, of course, as our emerging professionals go, going to present something educational here as far as their recommendations on running project finances. You'll also learn a little bit about Aldoa itself and their solutions that they offer. So you can see their take on how they've implemented their own recommendations, which will be really good. They have a lot of geotechnical firms, construction firms, contractors, etc., that they work with already. So they are experienced within the market, and they're going to know how to answer your questions that you may have today. We're going to have a handful more people joining us, so I'm just giving you up front here some of the reminders about CalGeo, even as we do the introduction here. I'll give you a reminder for this week that we have actually a pretty full week of trainings. So we have tomorrow, we have our second ICC approved safety training. That's tomorrow night. That's going to be at 4 o'clock. That's focused for field techs. And then on Thursday, we will have part of our technician training series that's been going on. That's a six-part series this fall. We'll be doing those iteratively over the next several years, but the one for 2024 is a six-part series. We have 3 of those in November and 3 that are coming up here in December. If you sign up for that, or if you sign up for the ICC safety course tomorrow, of course, you also get the recording of whatever part you register/purchase. This recording will also be in our learning library. So if you happen to need to go back, or if there's other people within your team that you'd like to share this with, please make sure to use your login to the learning library. This is complimentary to members. If you're not a member, you get to attend live, but you don't get the recording. So if you want to join as a member, you get this recording plus a lot of other emerging professional webinars, plus our Project Award series and some other videos that we share with all of our members automatically. With that, we are going to have Adam present. I'm going to go ahead and share his slides. So as I do that, I will go off camera and I'll let Adam get started. Here we go, Adam. I'm
Awesome.
going to share your slides.
Sweet.
And when those are live, which they should be now.
Yeah, we are all set.
There we go. All right, Adam, take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Nick, and thank you everyone for joining. It's nice to meet you all. And like Nick said, we're new to the CalGeo scene, so looking forward to meeting everyone and having a chance to talk to you all. Just to sort of go over a quick agenda, Nick, if you want to go to the next slide. I wanted to spend a little bit of time today just talking about managing your project finances, right? Which I think, a lot of sort of people on this call probably got into this profession because you're an engineer or a geologist or, another scientific profession. I think it's fair to say that no one here wants to be spending their time on tracking budgets and cutting invoices. Engineers want to design, to build, to implement, to solve problems, not spend their time on administrative work. But unfortunately, staying on top of project level finances is necessary to ensuring, your projects are profitable and your clients are happy, which are unfortunately both very important. So, just a quick agenda at a glance for today. First, I just wanted to introduce myself and expand upon Nick's introduction. My name is Adam Lowenthal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aldoa, which is a new platform, a modern project management and financial tracking platform that is built for consultants, engineers, and geotechnical professionals. A quick little background on myself. So I started my career in the finance world, hated it. I left. My family works in real estate construction and development. So I spent about 2 years shadowing that business, learning everything that I could. Got staffed on some pretty tricky projects, a few brownfields remediation projects that involved, drilling, excavation, environmental remediation, engineering services. And my eyes got open to the world of your world, your market. And I sort of walked away with this impression, and I hope no one takes offense of this, that this market was fairly underserved by modern technology, right? A lot of pen and paper, a lot of Microsoft Word and Excel, a lot of field notepads when you're in the field rather than collecting data in more modern ways. So, with those reflections in mind, I teamed up and with a partner of mine, we started Aldoa to sort of provide modern solutions to this industry that sort of flies under the radar as it relates to maybe larger construction firms or architecture firms. We found that this geotechnical, civil, environmental engineering space was pretty underserved. So we've been building software specifically for this industry. And, as I mentioned today, I want to just go over pretty quickly, some common pitfalls and problems that engineers, consultants, geoprofessionals face when managing project level financials. And again, I know it's not a very fun topic, but it's important. And if we can get rid of that administrative work and start focusing on what's important, which is, billable hours and actually doing the job at hand, I think everyone's happier. So I wanted to just go over that common pitfalls, and then I'm actually going to walk through some ways to solve those. So one of them will, of course, be showing off, our own software solutions, but a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about, you can take the best practices from that and apply it to your work, regardless of what solutions you're using, right? And that's sort of managing the life cycle of a project from a financial perspective, from proposal and budgeting all the way to that final invoice. And then we're going to leave some time for some Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, just write them in the chat or in the Q&A button as we go through this. But yeah, I'll kick it off. And I mentioned, a lot of you are in this profession. You're an engineer, you're a geologist, hydrogeologist. You don't want to be spending your time on this stuff, but unfortunately it happens. We've been in business for around 2.5 years and have had conversations with hundreds, if not thousands, of engineers and consultants and geoprofessionals. And we've sort of abstracted out a few similar complaints when it comes to managing project level finances. First, we hear that staying on top of T&M budgets and knowing how much of your budget is remaining in real time is pretty manual process. Project managers might have an Excel sheet, right, that's tracking actual expenditures against the budget, but that presents some real problems. First, every PM has their own way of doing things, right? So for higher level managers or business owners, it's very hard to actually oversee the health of your business as a whole when you need to comb through all these different static Excel spreadsheets, each one with its, different formatting and some that are impossible to find in these, convoluted folder structures on your computer. And there's sort of like small things that just pop up when you're relying on Excel so much. So, for example, one of the sort of big complaints we hear is it's easy to forget to update a labor rate. Or let's say you have an expense table of all of these laboratory testing services you're doing, and you forget to update those. And you have a project manager who's preparing a bid for something using pricing from 2023, right? That causes a lot of problems, and reconciling those problems with your clients can be a real pain in the butt. Another, big topic here, and this is even for those of you who are using real software rather than Excel to track your finances and your budgets, and, whether that's QuickBooks, another sort of horizontal solution, or even some of the solutions that are purpose-built for your industry, we still hear that these systems don't provide real-time updates. Budget expenditures don't get updated until, let's say, the billing happens, right? It goes over to accounting. Accounting puts in everything, invoices the client, and then the budget get updated. But a lot can happen in 30 days. I know some of you might be doing some quick turnaround projects where the whole project might be 15, 20 days, or just a few days of drilling. And if you don't know how your budget is trending until all of that sort of gets reconciled at the end of the month, that's a problem. Another common complaint we hear is that, and again, maybe some of you are on the, sort of scientists, engineers, geoprofessionals on this call. Maybe some of you are also on sort of the accounting side of things. Whichever side you're on, we always hear that there is a discrepancy between budget tracking when you talk to the accountant or the project team, right? And I'm sure some of you have dealt with this where the accountant is calling you and saying, hey, what is going on with these numbers? Like, this is different than what I have. An accountant might be doing a write-off, a transfer to another project of time or a billable activity. And the numbers as it relates to budget tracking for a front office sort of project manager and someone doing accounting and billing can be wildly different. And then it's not just the fact that these are different, it's the fact that you have to spend the time to actually reconcile these differences, right? You have to do those monthly calls, and some of you might be managing 10, 20, 30 projects by yourself. That's a real pain. And trusting that all of these reconciliations are happening when they need to be done manually in Excel is not so easy. And finally, on the final point here, and this is a big one, a lot of our customers and vendors and partners that we've talked to in the space, the worst thing that can happen is getting that angry client call, right? That call that says, I have no idea what I'm looking at on this invoice. These expenses, these labor charges, they don't line up with the tasks or the phases of the budget that were outlined in the original proposal. If you're using QuickBooks, if you're using a software platform that doesn't make it easy for you to track your time and expenses, not just by client or project, but by actual phase of work or task of work, your invoices won't show what task these billing items are associated with. That's sort of one of the, deadly sins, so to call it, that's bound to get some client attention. And not only is it a client-facing problem, right, where you obviously don't want that late-night call from a client saying, I'm not paying you for this until you sort of outline it in a more sophisticated way. You're also going to have no idea which tasks are profitable for you as a company if you're not tracking it, right? So having sort of a way to say, okay, here's my project, but this laboratory test or this sort of, foundational analysis that I'm doing over and over for all these different clients, am I usually over budget on that? Am I usually under budget? And being able to sort of have that real-time flexibility and foresight to say, this looks like it's going a little over or under budget. I'm going to push some costs to another task and adjust things without needing that formal change order, right? So these are some of the big problems we hear about from a financial tracking perspective. And if one of these or all of these resonates with you, rest assured you are not alone. This is something that businesses face, not just in California, not just in the geotechnical profession, but consultants, engineers across the country are dealing with this in real time all the time. Nick, if you want to jump to the next slide, just wanted to, let's give it a sec. Perfect. So with that as sort of the backdrop, I wanted to just talk about, and yes, I'm going to show Aldoa's software and sort of walk you through the life cycle of a project, but this is not just an Aldoa demonstration. A lot of the points that I'm going to try to get across is the benefits of using some sort of software rather than Excel and QuickBooks to track financials, right? And I know I'm throwing a lot of shade at Excel. Excel is a beautiful tool. It is a very powerful tool. I use Excel on a day-to-day basis. There are still some problems with it, right? And really just focused around the fact that Excel files are static. Even if they're shared in a shared drive in your computer, people are overwriting things constantly. You have to update things on your own manually. Every PM does it sort of their own way, and the formatting is difficult to follow. And really having, regardless of where this single source of truth exists, having a single source of truth, not just for the project teams, the drillers, the field staff, the PM, but also for the back office, the accountants, the billing team, and the owners of your company, to stay on top of this in real time is really important. So Nick, I'm going to steal the screen for a second if you want to stop sharing. And again, please please keep putting your comments and questions in there. So Haley, I know you've mentioned, have you utilized Big Time at all? We are definitely familiar with Big Time, and I guess I'll jump in with this question right here. One of the things that we hear from customers using Big Time is that it's great, it covers the bases, but it clearly wasn't built for consultants and engineers in the sense that they're building product that addresses law firms, IT consultants, sort of anyone dealing with like billable hours and expenses, and that you can get a lot from one integrated system. So, I'll give a quick example just before jumping into this. One of the things that our company is building right now is field data collection software, where you have field techs, drillers, whoever it may be in the field. You can bring a tablet, mobile device, create your own forms, update those forms, collect data, and send it back to a centralized database in the office without sort of, going through the motions of, transcribing and recognizing handwriting in real place. That's something that a Big Time would never do, because that doesn't address all their customers. But Big Time is definitely in the financial management side of things, just not specifically built around engineers and consulting firms. So let me share my screen. Awesome. So I'm going to quickly go through this. Again, please keep questions, comment in the chat, and I'll take a look at that all at the end of this. But this is Aldoa. So Aldoa is a cloud-based project management and financial tracking solution. And let me actually jump into one of these projects. So again, you log in, you see a list of all of your projects. I'm going to jump into this Blue Basin commercial lot. And I want to quickly walk through sort of how managing the life cycle of a project looks like with an integrated financial system. And it all sort of starts with a budget, right? So again, here I'm in a project. We got some Google Maps integration. We have, some sort of project management tools. I'm going to spend most of the time on the financial tracking. In Aldoa and in a lot of these systems, you can build your budget directly in the application, right? And the powerful thing about this is that you don't have to ask yourself, is my rate table updated? Is my expense table updated? You have updated time-stamped expense tables that live in the settings page globally. So you can see here that I've sort of built this budget the way that an engineer, a consultant, a geoprofessional builds budgets, right? You can do time and material, lump sum. So for this first task of the budget, my geotechnical feasibility study, I'm assigning out hours to different billable rates at my company. Let's say I'm using a, drilling and excavation subcontractor for this. I can say they're doing 5 days at $2,500 per day. I have my direct costs, my equipment, whatever that may be. You can also set up equipment tables to say, hey, I'm paying $200 a day for this sort of analysis and charge your clients for that. You can also do sort of a top-down approach. We're saying, I'm not going to assign out hours to everyone. I'm just going to do a total labor estimate of $10,000. And then you can obviously do lump sum approaches where, report preparation, I'm charging my client $10K for that, and that's what they're paying me. So once this budget is live, right, a lot of companies who are managing this side on Excel, in QuickBooks, whatever it is, I know that you're sort of double entering sometimes, right? You have a budget you build into Excel, then you're going into your system, you're entering that budget so you can track your time and expenses against those phases. That is already a waste of time. So if you have everything in one centralized location, that is really sort of the step one of saving a lot of this administrative time. So once your budget is actually live, let's say that you get the proposal sent out, it's won, project is live, and it's time to start actually doing the work, right? One of the beauties of sort of this integrated financial solution, getting things, off of Excel into more collaborative workspaces, is that you can do all of this real-time tracking. So for example, you can see here in my budget dashboard, I can immediately pull this up and say, hey, how much is my remaining budget? $57,500. I can see exactly how much of my budget was spent, billed, unbilled, open accounts receivable. I can see how it's broken down between labor, subcontractor spend, and direct expenses. If there's any lump sum components, I can see how those are being spent. And again, you can also break it down by phase and subphase or task of the budget. So right now I'm looking at my entire project. If I just want to look at the geotechnical feasibility study, I can very easily pull that up. We're going to see right now in real time, and this is what I'm talking about, of sort of updating Excel sheets at the end of every week with hours that are being put in. I'm going to show you sort of how this budget updates in real time as I'm putting expenses and costs into the project, as you would do during the life of any sort of geotechnical project, right? So first, we'll start with the simplest thing, which is timesheets, right? And I know some of you might not be billable, some of you might be hourly or doing a lot of lump sum work. I can go over that as well, but just starting with time, if I go to my timesheet and I can search for sort of the Blue Basin commercial lot project, I can bill to a specific phase of the project or even a phase and a subphase underneath it. But let's say I'm just billing to the geotechnical feasibility study as a project manager. I can leave notes. I can say, hey, I was developing project plans for this. Today is what, 12th? And so I was working 5 hours. And I can do geotechnical feasibility study. And I can add my time. So that's all it is. I have 5 hours on my timesheet, right? A lot of companies who we deal with, when employees are adding time, it's a bit of a lag before they see how that's actually impacting their budget, right? If you're using reactive systems, though, let me jump back into my project. So again, this is the same project we were all looking at. Here's my initial budget. And I can just jump into my dashboard and see exactly how much of that budget was spent in real time. So you can see before it was 0% across the board. Here, my labor estimate gone up by $875. And again, I can break that down by phase or subphase and see exactly how my budget is trending against my actual expenditures in real time. So I know time is only one piece of it. Let's talk about subcontractors, right? I know that in the geotechnical world, you might be doing your own drilling, excavation. Sometimes you need outside services. Some of you might have in-house labs for some compaction testing, anything like that. Others might have to use, external services. Let's say I'm using a payable subcontractor for this. I can just put in quickly, invoice number, select which subcontractor I'm working with. We'll call Regional Excavators. My invoice amount of $10,000, which is 5 or 6 days of drilling. You can choose what markup you're going to charge the client for, but you can save that for later. And then it's simple as saying, which date did I receive this? What's my payment terms on it? So this is net 30. And then again, assigning things to a phase and a subphase, or a task and a subtask of the budget. And that's one of the things that we find a lot of companies who are utilizing. I keep mentioning QuickBooks just because that's the most common, but any of these sort of horizontal selling to all different types of industries, one of the things that suffers a little bit is being able to drill down into exactly where these expenses are associated to for different tasks of the budget, which is something that clients care about. So again, I add this invoice. If I have an attachment, I can upload attachment. I can set up sort of approval processes where this gets sent to a senior project manager, an owner of a company, to approve this. And again, in real time, I can sort of go back to my dashboard and just say, okay, now my estimate, 10,000 of what I've budgeted on this project for 15K is spent, right? Same for expenses. I'm just going through sort of all the typical, line items that can be associated with the project. So I was just in my payable invoices. Now I'm in my expenses. If I wanted to add an expense to this project, I can choose whether it's a reimbursable expense or if it's a chargeable expense. Let's say it's a sort of I'm doing an organic, or let's say I'm doing soil test boring, or any of these. You can set up sort of rate tables for how much this costs. So let's say I'm doing a standard inspection, right? And I charge $200 per standard inspection. I can set the quantity. I've done 5 standard inspections. And again, all I have to do is just assign it to a phase and subphase and add that expense. And in real time, my budget dashboard updates. So I think a lot of you are starting to see sort of how powerful sort of real-time reporting can be. This seems pretty simple, right? I'm looking at one project at one time. The way that companies really get overburdened, as many of you might be aware, is by managing 10, 20, 100, 500 projects at the same time. So yes, what I'm showing right now, you might be able to do in Excel with a phone call. You can call someone on your project staff and say, hey, how many hours did you do? Let me, take that Excel sheet, copy and paste it into my budget tracking. That's fine. If you're doing this 100 times a week, that's going to be pretty time intensive. And that is billable time and utilization rate decreases that could be helping you grow the team and grow the company. The other piece of this, which I was mentioning before, is, okay, here's sort of the tracking, right? I'm tracking sort of my time, expenses, subcontractor invoices. The other piece of sort of pain that we hear is from an invoicing standpoint. A, it's too hard to invoice. B, it's too hard to add things by task. My clients give a lot of pushback. We've tried to build sort of invoicing in as simple of a way as possible, where I can go to the project and add a new invoice. What's my service date, right? It's going to be for the month of November. I can add my invoice. And now I can go into each phase or task of the budget and see all the time that I've put on my timesheets. So you can see right here for the geotechnical feasibility study, I can see what my budget is for labor, how much has been unbilled. So I haven't billed anything. Previously billed is 0. I can go in and I can say, okay, let me look at all the time from every employee that's been put in my timesheet. And you can see those 5 hours I put in are right here. Let me just confirm that. Great. Then I can go to my subcontractor invoices and say that $10,000 invoice that I sent for drilling services, I'm adding that to this invoice and I'm going to call that, drilling services. So my client knows exactly what they're getting paid for, or what they're paying us for, excuse me. And I charge a 20% markup. Again, go to direct costs. I have those standard inspections that I put on. Quickly add that into my invoice. And I'll just say standard inspections. And you can overwrite this for anything that you want your client to see. So if I say standard inspections XYZ, that's how it'll show up on the invoice. And that's it. That's all I got to do. And now I got an invoice. I have my company logo. You can put your company name, address, project name, project number, billing contact. And you can see here that we can break it down exactly by phase of the project. So if I go in, I have all these sort of toggles on the left-hand side that enable me to basically customize how I want this invoice to look. So I want to lump everything into phases of my budget. So I can see here, it's exactly how it's broken down in the proposal to that client. It is the geotechnical feasibility study, and I have hours, subcontractors, and expenses all in one sort of very easy to read summary page. You can set payment terms at 30. I know everyone wants to get paid quicker. You can sort of attach backup. So let's say I want to attach a labor breakdown. I can then scroll to the next page and you'll see that all of my timesheet entries are included on the invoice. You can do the same thing with a click of a button if you have backups for subcontractor invoices, expensive, what have it. You add a footer, thanks for your business. And that's it. Ready to go. I can preview what this invoice looks like when we get rid of some of the ugly formatting. We have this invoice, thanks for your business, invoice number, page 1 of 2. I can publish this. We're good to go. That invoice has been published. We have some tools that allow you to, sort of create payment links for your customer, accept payments by credit card or ACH. I know that that is one of the pains of industries that are still really used to using checks. Just from a working capital perspective and cash conversion perspective, you want to get paid quicker. Sometimes it helps. ACH is almost, I know credit card has a 3% charge, which detracts some people. ACH is pretty much cost-free. And again, if I go back to my dashboard and sort of tie it all together, you can now see that this dashboard has been updated with my receivables. So I have how much of the budget I've spent, how much I've billed. I have this amount unbilled because I've actually billed more than I've actually spent. So this is a negative number right now. I can see that my accounts receivable is fully open. I have my labor spend, my subcontractor spend, my expenses, all in one central location. So again, if you're managing anywhere from 10 plus projects at once, and I think most small businesses are managing a heck of a lot more than 10 projects, a tool like this is very powerful. There's a few other things. I guess the last thing I'll touch on before I stop sharing my screen and open up to questions is that, so I mentioned before, this process isn't that tedious if you're doing one project. You have an Excel file, you can get it done with sort of good communication, right? You have a meeting on your calendar every Friday where you put everyone's time and expenses into the budget tracker and you know how much is left over. You can do that. It's really tough if you're juggling 10s, 20s, hundreds of projects at the same time. And another benefit of having everything in sort of one centralized location is that you can run reports and queries on the database, right? So if I go into like my accounting section, I can say, show me every single work in progress, right? I want to see everything across all of my projects that is unbilled. Let's see how long this takes to load. All right, not too bad. So we have about $12,862.50 of unbilled activity pending in my database. This is one of the things that I did not mention before, which is a lot of our customers, the reason they sign up with Aldoa or any of these other solutions is because they're missing out on billable activity. Like they are spending an extra hour writing that report, or let's say they pick up some materials from Home Depot and they forget to put in an expense, and they are just leaving money on the table. If you have a system that can say, hey, here's everything that you have not billed for, it is very hard to let things slip through the cracks, right? And you can do this and break it down and slice and dice it in whichever way you want, right? So if you have sort of you just want to look at time, I can say, show me, let's do time by projects. I can say, hey, I just want to look at that, what's that project called? The Blue Basin commercial lot. Show me all the time that's been put on that project. At sort of the 2 clicks, what do they take me to get here? 10 seconds. You can see everything that's being billed to your project rather than having to call people down. If you're an accountant, rather than having to call down a project manager and reconcile several different data sets, everything is living in one central location. I know I've been sharing my screen for like probably 20 minutes right now. So I'm actually going to take a pause here. I think this is a pretty good overview of just the power of having everything in one central location. And again, I don't want this to be like a full sales call for Aldoa. I want this to have some takeaways for all of you in the audience of how can I better manage some projects, right? And I think a few of those is have all of your billable activity line up to tasks of the budget, right? Do not have it in a point where you have 4 people who are just throwing time in against a project or against a job number. If you're going to be preparing invoices for clients, put that up against the actual tasks of the proposal so you don't get any confusion about what you're getting paid for, right? That's one of the big ones. I would say having standard formatting is a huge one, right? I was showing you how everything is formatted the same in a system like Aldoa, but have a standard template in Excel for all your budgets. Have a rate table that is always up to date that all of your project managers need to pull from when they start a new proposal, right? Therefore, you're not leaving money on the table. Those are 2 really easy takeaways that can make sure that you are billing the maximum and getting what your team deserves. And again, just sort of a last message from me is, I know, and I know there's about 15 of you guys and gals on the call right now. This is not fun stuff. Administrative time, tracking budgets, client communications, it's not what you signed up to do when you entered this industry, but it's important work. If we can just make that as brain dead as possible, then we can get everyone working on what they want to work on. So that's one of the missions we started this company. Obviously, we're building some things more on the scientific front, like I mentioned on the field data collection side. But for now, let's just get rid of all this administrative headache and we'll all be in a better place.
All right, great, Adam. Let's go to Q&A. I will invite people to make sure that you put any questions you have into the Q&A. We have one open right now. It says you may have answered this. Is there a mobile app for field-based staff to enter time and expenses?
Yep. So we are in the process of building that mobile app. It should be live very soon. It's not just for time and expenses. And again, going back to, I believe it was Haley's question of like, what is this system versus big time? One of the benefits of building software that's purpose built for an industry like this is that you can build tools that go beyond just time and expenses, right? So yes, we'll have a mobile app where you can collect time and expenses, but you can also have forms, actually fill in forms for surveys, feasibility studies, data collection on the field, and push that back into the database when you're back into the office as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for answering the couple questions that we did have come in. I have put Adam's contact in the chat, so if you want to reach out to Adam directly, he'll also have the list, as we always do, from these EP webinars of those who attended so that he can do some follow-up on those who registered or attended. So expect maybe some communication from his side as well, but if you'd like to reach out sooner, please take a look at his contact info in the chat. You also will get a PDH for your attendance at this. So looks like we exceeded just over half an hour. So you get a half-hour PDH for this for your attendance. Thank you, everyone. You get a few minutes back of your day since we ended a little bit early. And then you can also go to aldoa.com to schedule a demo with the team if you like as well. So pretty simple, just the company name, aldoa.com, if you do want a demo that shows a bit more of what they can do for you. Adam, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you at conference next year, certainly, and maybe some in-person events that we have in Q1 of 2024. Happy holidays, everyone. Talk soon.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks, everyone.
All right, see ya.